Ever felt those awkward vibes when religion and money come up? You're not alone. Welcome to Yahweh's Money, the podcast where we tackle the crossroads of faith and finance. I'm Shay Cook, an accredited financial counselor and the CEO and founder of Crusaders for Change, LLC.
And I'm Vanessa McNally, accredited financial counselor and COO of Crusaders for Change. Join us on our journey as we discuss topics like tithing, saving, and conquering debt through religious perspectives. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Yahweh's Money. Hey Vanessa, how are you today?
I am good. How are you, Shay?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about women as the breadwinner. Oh my God, this is a hot, steamy, sexy topic that nobody wants to talk
I know.
about.
Yep.
So we're going to get into it because today, Vanessa and I will be talking about something that has been shattering traditional stereotypes and refining the modern family dynamic for years. Yep, that's right. Women as breadwinners. In fact, nearly, which is crazy, this amount, 40% of households in the US now have women as the primary earners. And I have to add that the numbers are slightly higher for people of color, women of color. I know I've talked to many Black and brown women, and they're like, oh, that's like 70%. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what the real number is. I think I've seen 60, but it's pretty high. So, talk about change from balancing budgets to breaking barriers. We explore more how modern women are leading the way in financial stewardship, all while navigating their faith and family life. So we love a Proverbs woman here at Yahweh's Money. In fact, Proverbs 31:13-14 says or tells us, she selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. This passage describes the Proverbs woman as someone who not only provides for her household, it also shows her involvement in financial decision making and her entrepreneur spirit. Oh my God, that's a mouthful.
It's a lot. It sounds exhausting, actually,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that part.
yeah, it really does. It sounds like, we have to be everything to everyone. And I know we've talked about that before too. But what do you think brought about this change for women to become breadwinners?
That's a great question. I know when I started reading this script and preparing, I thought of House of Dragon with the two women. Like one is taking care of her son, who's the king, and on the other side, for those who watch House of Dragon, who watch Game of Thrones, and you have this queen trying to become, excuse me, the queen of all the lands or whatever. I'm sure I'm messing up the reference, but even now in TV and on in movies, women are just more at the
Yeah,
forefront.
yeah,
So
I
I don't
agree.
know. It's wild. I mean, I've always been side by side with my husband. I wouldn't say I've necessarily been the breadwinner in my household,
Mm-hmm.
but I know a lot of family friends, including single mothers, and which
Yeah.
includes my husband's mother, have been. And it's a change. That tide has been rising for a long time, and I don't know if it's ever going to go back down.
I agree. I know in my household, I've been the breadwinner before.
Yeah.
And I think it does. It brings about this weird dynamic too, because I think a lot of men feel threatened when that happens.
Hmm.
Some don't, which is wonderful. But it does. It brings about this. A lot of people don't know how to handle the change, I think, when it comes down
Yeah.
to it. But I think one reason for this is women are able to get more education these days than they were in the past. So I think that's a huge thing. I know my grandmother had to quit school in the third grade because she
Wow.
had to stay at home and help raise the other children. And
Hmm.
if you think back from her generation to us now, and the ability to finish high school, to go to college, to get a master's degree, to go get a doctorate degree, that has really changed in such a short period of time.
It really has. So many women, and I know they have multiple degrees, multiple certifications. And you even meet the women that are at home and not breadwinners that have education, right? So
Right.
it's definitely attainable, more attainable than it's ever been before, especially with online and just all the flexibility that universities and colleges offer. So, yay to women that are getting all the education. I would say sometimes women get too much education because then they have too much and now they can't
Right.
get. I've seen women that can't get a job because they just have too much on their
Yeah,
resume. So yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Especially when you have that. And let's say you stay at home with your kids for a little bit. So you
Mm-hmm.
don't have that work experience or relevant or timely work experience,
Mm-hmm.
but you have all the education. You kind of get yourself in this place where you're not really in a space to be hired. And it's really,
Exactly.
really hard. So I guess finding that balance is what we all want to do. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and we do have an increase of women who are actually participating in a part of the workforce. And that's something we didn't have in the past. A lot of women stayed at home, raised a family. That's what we were kind of taught to do back in that day.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have two grandmothers. So my dad's mom was very upset with me when I told her I wanted to go to college
Oh wow.
because she thought a woman's place was in the home
Mm-hmm.
and your job was to raise your family, cook for your husband, clean your house. And I think it went back to that's what she had wanted for herself, but she was a single mom of three.
Oh.
So she never got that.
Yeah, and that's true. I know I see women here that in my family that they still have those traditional
Hmm.
roles. And then on top of the traditional roles, if they get a job, they still hold on to those traditional roles, which I know we've talked about a lot, and all the invisible work that's still involved in there, and the inequality between the man and the woman when it comes to the shared roles, and that's another episode at home. But being the breadwinner, to be honest, Vanessa, I don't know. I don't have many women in my side of the family that were breadwinners. Most of them were that traditional role, taking care of the child at home, taking care of children, and taking
Hmm.
care of the household. The man went out and got the bacon, brought the bacon home, as they would say, or they got jobs, like I said, and they still maintain the household. I think more on my husband's side because his mom was a single mother, and a lot of his aunts, they are single, or whatever the situation may be, they were. So I guess it's all dependent on an era, the culture, where you're from, like many different factors of,
Oh, yeah,
about
totally.
that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know my mom worked more than my father worked.
Mm.
So she was gone out of the house working from, gosh, early morning to late at night most
Mm.
days. And my dad would go in 3 or 4 maybe on a good day, and he would stay until 11 or 12 if he felt like it. So it was a very different dynamic in our household, even though they owned businesses. So
Mm.
essentially, they made the same amount, but I know my mom worked a lot harder with things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've had a lot of advancements too in gender equality. And I will say we are not there yet.
We're a
Uh,
long way from, because women still are in the
mhm.
majority, like administrative roles and stuff like that. They're not in the
Right.
roles of leadership and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's still a pay gap. I think there's a 16%
it's
pay gap
crazy.
still
Yeah.
between men and women doing the same job.
Hmm.
And then if you think about gender equality through the ages, just when women gained the right to vote, not every woman gained the right to vote at the same time, too.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's been since the 60s, and that's not really
Hmm.
that long
No,
since
it's not.
women have
Not
been a
even 100
part of
years ago.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's changing social norms and gender roles. And I don't know about you, but I still have this desire within me to do things around the house for my partner. Like
Yes.
I enjoy cooking dinner for them. I enjoy cleaning the house. It makes me feel like I'm contributing in this way
Hmm.
that I don't know. It's hard to explain. I think it's just something that's built into me. And I know most people don't have that. What about you? How do you feel with all that?
I just love to clean. As you know, I'm OCD, I'm a clean freak. I just love a clean house.
Yeah,
So my family benefits from that. My growing up, my family, my brother and sister, mom and dad benefited from that. So I don't even know if that's just DNA or whatever. So that's always been there. Like my house, everybody knows my house gonna be clean. Okay. So, but when it comes to cooking, I just recently fell in love with cooking because it was a health choice. It was like, if my family, starting with me, is going to be healthy, I need to cook. And then of
hmm,
course came with that was I'm saving money. So y'all should definitely try that out. So
agree, agree,
cooking at
agree.
home, it definitely saves you money. I mean, now when I go in the refrigerator, I'm like, man, maybe I should order something. Like, no, I'm gonna eat these leftovers, and them leftovers be good. So like
Right.
so that's what I do. But Yeah, I know a lot of people the same way that just feel like I got to run my house. I got to take care of it. It's like,
Yeah.
but you're also working. So you're exhausted, right? When you're at the end of
Right.
the day doing all of that. So there has to be some partnering there when it comes to, especially women as breadwinners.
Hmm.
We need to have a conversation with our partners, with our children. You might have some other generational family members living in the house. We need to have a conversation. If I'm going to be making the majority of the money, like somebody, there needs to be some equality there in the roles that
Agree.
we play at home.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know back in the day, my ex husband would not help me with anything in the home. And he was raised in a household where his mother worked. So I never really understood it. But at one point, I had to say to him, either you help me with these things around the house because I was working full time. I was
Mm-hmm.
a full time grad student. I had a
Wow.
side hustle. And I was still expected to keep the house up and to cook and to do the grocery shopping. So I finally had to say, either you help me or you pay for someone to help me because I
Exactly.
couldn't do it anymore. I could
Yeah.
not do it. And I'm so thankful now to have a partner that says, wait a minute, you know, I was single before you and I could do these things before you. And he recognizes that I do these things. And he
Yeah.
recognizes that sometimes I go a little above and beyond, I think, sometimes, but it's just something that's built within me. And he tells
Yeah.
me it's okay. You're not there anymore. You have help. And that's a really good feeling, too.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. My situation is a little different. It's all Shay's issues. So because my husband be like, I ain't tell you to do all of that. And he's right. He been telling me that for 25 years. Like, hey, my husband oh my God. So I started getting somebody to clean my house like a couple years ago. And like, was it right before? It was like during right at the end of the pandemic. And so I literally had to get coaching to get to that point because my husband had been telling me 20 years prior to hire somebody.
Yeah.
So I have to give it up to my husband. It ain't him, it's me. Cause he's like, well, get some help, hire somebody.
Right.
I'm like, no, I can do all of this, right? So and then he's like, I ain't tell you to wash my clothes. And I'm like, you know what? You wouldn't have no underwear if I wash your clothes. you know?
Maybe that would be a good lesson, though. A really good lesson.
No, my husband just go buy more underwear. He's one of those. So, but yeah, I mean, I have to say, I know there's women that men at our home that are just like, nah, you need to do this. They have that expectation. My husband
Hmm.
doesn't have that expectation. I set that within myself. So I think that also needs to
Yeah.
be honored too. That some women just do it because they doing too much. They just
Hmm.
doing too
Hmm.
much. And they need to sit down and look at themselves and don't be blaming their man or their woman or whoever, their
Yeah.
partner without like, well, they expect me. No, you expecting yourself. So, anyways,
Hmm.
I'm talking to myself right now. But so
But you're
yeah.
so right. You're so, so right. A lot of times it's just we think that that's what we're supposed to do, or it won't get done
Yeah.
unless we do it. And you can't do everything. And
No.
you can't do everything well. That's the other part of
Mm.
that. So we
Mhm.
have to make choices and pick and choose. And
Yeah.
that's something women as a whole are not good at. We want to have it all and do it all.
Mm.
But you know, we have to, like you said, honor those things and
Yeah.
step back and say we need help when we need help. And others on the other side of that, our partners need to realize it, they need to see it, and they need to not wait until we ask for it. Because when we ask for
Exactly.
help, we are beyond the point of needing
Yeah,
it.
that's so true, Vanessa. So
Yeah, and then
true.
we also have all these changing family dynamics.
Mhm.
That's another thing. We have a lot of, you know, same-sex couples. We have a lot of single adults who are choosing to not get married, not have
Mhm.
kids. We have a lot of, you know, dinks, so dual income, no kids. There's a lot of things going on that didn't happen 50 years ago, openly anyway, with
Yeah.
a lot of that. But we have lots of changing family dynamics that really impact the way we work, who works, and who takes care of the household.
Yeah, that's so true. First of all, I've never heard of dinks before, so that's
Oh,
something I learned
yeah.
today.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. But yeah, you're right. It's a different world. It's a different world, and I mean, we probably can go so, and you know, probably we can go deeper, and not only women as the breadwinners, but more single people, like you said, having to
Mm-hmm.
support themselves or living at home, which when you hear about the news of a lot of people not leaving
Right.
until they're 30, 35, 40 now because of the economy, and so how that affects, you know, so there's a lot of different dynamics there, but yeah, it's a different world, or like maybe like you said, it's the same world, we just now we know about it because social
Right.
and internet
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always been like this. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, what about the social impact women as breadwinners has bought? So, like we kind of already mentioned, the redefinition of gender roles. Women are accepted more as breadwinners, and many men help with domestic duties now, which I love. Like,
Me
there's no
too.
shame at being a stay-at-home father, or
No.
cooking and cleaning, and so I just had this thought, like my husband, even though I do a lot and I do the most, our household has been very different because my husband, for the first long time, he did most of the cooking,
Hmm.
and I used to mow the grass,
Oh,
and I
okay.
used to, and we were sharing cleaning and some, but he did a lot of the cooking, which I know a lot of men do a lot of the cooking,
Right. Right.
but growing up, men didn't do the cooking in my side of the family, at least,
Yeah.
and so having that, people will look at or it might have just been me, but people were looking at us like, yeah,
Mm.
well, that's different. Y'all ain't traditional. And I used to have to tell people, no, we ain't. No, my husband
Ah.
liked to cook for a
Hmm.
long time there. He wanted to be he went to culinary school for a little bit and all
I
that good
didn't
stuff.
know that.
Yeah, it didn't pan
Wow.
out, the money situation. So he went to college and the military. That's a long story.
Yeah.
So, but then when he got out of the military, he looked at culinary school again, and that's another story too. But yeah, he always loved to cook.
Hmm.
And so I was really spoiled. I mean, I gained 20 pounds the first year we were dating because he cooked so
Oh, wow.
much.
That's, but that is a rarity. And I think a lot of men don't spend time in the kitchens like we did growing up. I think
Yeah.
a lot of women spent time in the kitchen with their grandmas, their aunties, their moms, all those things growing up. And I didn't have that either. I didn't grow up in a traditional kitchen, I guess. But my grandfather was a mess sergeant in the military.
Oh yeah, that's
So
right.
he was really good at cooking. And my grandmother, his wife, not so much. But at home, she really took care of him and provided with food and everything on the table, even though it was just reheating things. So, but yeah, I didn't grow up with a lot of women cooking either and kind of showing me how to do those things. So I had to learn those on my own.
Mm,
But that's a very good way to kind of talk about it. I think a lot of men do enjoy cooking and
yeah.
do enjoy the creation part and the creativity
Hmm.
and being able to build something that you can really
The
enjoy.
science of it all, right? Cooking ain't nothing but
Yeah,
science. So,
yeah.
yeah. And then our daughter learned a lot of cooking and baking from him, not me. So
Oh,
my mom did all the cooking growing up. And I remember when I moved to Germany and we got married, she provided me a little binder of recipes that she
oh,
had.
what a good
And so
gift.
my mom makes like the best like Thanksgiving dishes, like macaroni cheese and sweet
Hmm.
potatoes, and her potato salad is to die for. Like, we should be selling it, like, for real, for real. So we've all tried to, like, copy that. So my mom was
Yeah.
the cook, and she's just fell off a little bit because she older, but she was the one. But those recipes were passed down from her mother, my aunt,
Mm.
my great
Hmm.
aunt Julia. So, like,
Mm.
and who could cook her butt off, Mom Julia. Oh God, girl, she could cook. She was amazing.
Oh,
So yeah, so those kind of things. But all of this impacts the family dynamics and
it
can be good
does.
or bad, right? You
Hmm.
have to clearly define your roles in the relationship. And that's what I said. Like, for my husband and I coming in, it was like, hey, if you love to cook, you go ahead and cook. I clean.
Right.
And that's what we did for decades,
Hmm.
until this year when I started really cooking. And I always cooked here and there. I mean, we
Hmm.
had a child, so I had to cook, I had to take care of her. But yeah, he was like the main cook. But
Yeah.
having those conversations are very important.
So important. Yeah, because if you can actually sit down with your partner, number one, it opens the lines of communication and
Hmm.
you can talk about your feelings. If you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling like you need help, or if there's something that you really don't like doing and
Yeah.
they don't mind it, you guys can have those conversations and kind of split things up. So you're not working all day, then coming home and having to cook and clean and help the kids with homework and all those
I know
things
all those
that
things.
really get you overwhelmed. And then you have zero time for yourself, zero time to like recoup and recover. But yeah, I think having the conversations, that is so, so important.
And all of this is very empowering to women. I think sometimes a
Yeah.
little too empowering because women think they the ish, and they be like, and then they want to talk bad about men. It's like, we don't need
Right?
y'all. Like, and that's what my
Uh-huh.
husband be like. Go ahead and do it. It's like women are making all this money now and they think they, all that. And they are, and they always have been.
Yeah.
But you still got to have that respect for the other side, right?
Exactly. You can't downplay the
Yeah.
importance of their role as well.
Exactly,
Yep. Mhm.
exactly. And then we're role models. Kids look up to both
Yeah.
the both parents for balancing work and family, and I know I've been for my daughter,
Mhm.
even though now she's like, you work too hard. And I know Vanessa don't say nothing. But, but she's like, you need to rest. And so,
Yeah.
but so what kind of role model are you as a breadwinner, a woman as a
Right.
breadwinner? You're a role model, and your kids like, oh, I want to be like my mama and all that. But then it's
Mhm.
like my daughter be like, I don't want to work that hard. So like,
That's how I felt too growing up. I was
oh,
always,
wow.
yeah, yeah. I remember my mom would come home and she would just be completely exhausted. And
Mm,
then the expectation was to help us with our homework and to get
yeah.
dinner on the table or whatever it might be. And I was like, I don't want this one day. I don't want to be so tired that I can't function.
Yeah.
And I was like, I will never have my own business because of that. Because that's what I equated that with is my
Oh, that's
mom
probably what my
working
daughter feel like too.
so hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's like I never understood that she didn't take time for the family or for herself or which I know she was doing it for us, obviously. But you have to be able to kind of say, okay, I'm doing this, you do that. And it's okay to get your kids involved in that too. Kids can do things at home, kids
Yep.
can do things at work. I know my mom taught me how to run payroll when I was 10.
I love that.
So, yeah, because she didn't trust my dad to do it when she was out of town. So it's like she had her
Mm,
10-year-old child, running payroll. But at the same
child
time,
labor.
right? She passed these bad traits down to me, showing me that, you know, women have to clean, they have to cook, they have to,
Mm,
help the kids with the homework and work 12 times harder too.
mm-hmm,
And it's okay to let, your partner slack. And it's
mm-hmm.
not okay.
Not at
It's
all. Not
okay
at all.
to
Mm-mm.
have an equal environment and men to do
Exactly.
things at home too. Absolutely.
And then what about all the great policy and work changes that have come out of this, right? Flex work, parental leave, like life and work
Yeah.
balance, which I would say a lot of us are working on that. I know seeing in the Olympics that just passed recently, of course, I'm going to forget her name, a very amazing track star who's won, like, I think the most medals for America. She implemented a child, like, not daycare, but yeah, like a daycare or a nursery, excuse me, and the
Oh,
Olympic Village, like the first one ever, which was like, really? How many women Olympians have been in Olympics for hundreds of
right.
years and had children? So for her to do that, it's like, all right, women are on top, and they're like, nah, we demand to have
Right.
breastfeeding centers and leave, and you know what? How about the
Mhm.
man maternal leave? That's huge too. Like on the
Yeah.
flip side, like it's not just about the woman, about the
I
man in the
agree.
relationship
I
too.
agree.
So,
I have always thought that paternity leave was so important because you bond with that baby and you
mm-hmm,
spend time with your little one and your spouse or your partner.
mm-hmm,
And when you're recovering from that as a woman, you need help with just that side of things too. It's
mm-hmm,
not just about the kid.
mm-hmm.
And I think we forget about those things that, your body's changed. And who knows if you had a C section or not.
Yeah.
It takes time. I've had friends in the past, spouses were military, and husbands didn't get to come home for the
Mm,
birth of a child. Wife had a C section. How
mm-hmm.
are you expected to take care of a newborn when you're not supposed to lift?
Exactly. And
It doesn't
family
make
members.
any sense
Yeah.
at all,
Not
at
at
all.
all.
Or even if an adoption occurs,
Mm-hmm.
um, you need time to bond with that child, both parents. So there's not this inequality from the beginning.
Exactly.
Yep,
So
yep,
do
yep.
religious beliefs have an impact?
I mean, I really think they do. I don't know about you, but I feel like the way you're brought up, a lot of those social roles are kind of built into your religious beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but I feel like women as a whole just still have that sense of honoring, taking care of, being a little more submissive to
Mm-hmm.
their spouses. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that is in a lot of religious perspectives. But there's a lot more that goes in with that too. What about giving to charity?
Mm.
It's crazy to me that working women give more to charity than men do. How do
Yep.
you
And they
feel about that?
volunteer more
Yeah.
too. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. Something's wrong with us. This must be a DNA issue. It's just
We
like
try to take care of everyone. I
we
think
try to
that's
take
where it
care of
comes into
everyone
it.
but ourselves most of
Yep.
the time. We are always doing the most,
Right.
working too much, and I struggle with that. I
Yeah.
was talking to my husband yesterday about that. After the conversation we had with our coach, I was saying, like, "Ugh, I just always been like this," and he's like, "No, you ain't, because if you had always been like this, I wouldn't have been with you." I was like, "Okay." Thank you for the
Wow.
honesty. But
Yeah.
he's right. I mean, there's it ebb and
Mhm.
flows where I feel like I need to do a lot. I need to do the most. And
Mhm.
then sometimes I'd be like, nah, I can't do that. I need to chill. I need to spend more time with my husband, my daughter, my family, myself.
Right. Right.
So there are cycles to that, but there
Mhm.
is something that's ingrained in me as a woman that wants to do, or just maybe, I don't know. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's not all women,
Yeah.
obviously, that just always wants to do the most, always
Yeah.
wants to volunteer, like serve and serve and serve,
Mhm.
and I can't serve and not take care of myself. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And I think too, like there's this inner longing for peace, and we want everybody to thrive. And I don't think a lot of men have that. And it's
Mm,
like we want to see change, and we want a better world for children. We want a better world for ourselves. And I think we see a lot of that more so than men. I think men are more practical a lot of times, and
mhm.
we kind of dream these things and want and hope versus the realities of things. And I think men are able to just say no, or I don't have time. And we're like, well, you know what? If it's important, I'll make time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And many religions emphasize distinct gender roles, which can hold women back. I know there are
Yes.
still, especially that I know of in the black church, that men, and I know it's not only black churches, it's that men don't want women in a pulpit. They
Yes.
don't want, they don't even, and they
Yes.
don't even want women to be breadwinners.
Yep.
If they, and women feel uncomfortable even sharing that, with their
Right.
pastors and reverends or whatever religious figure, because they still like, wait a minute, you make more money than your man? That's not right. That kind of stigma. That's
Mhm.
ridiculous. It's
Mhm. I
ridiculous.
agree 100%. I know, like, when I was in college, because I went to a Christian university,
Mm-hmm.
and the church that I was going to, and I'd been my entire life, I'd been going to this church, they took a vote to see if they would even look at resumes of women when they were hiring a music minister. And they voted no, that they would not look at,
Whoa.
yep, and it was, to me, it was a more progressive church in the town
Mm-hmm.
that I was in. But my mom and I made an active decision that that was not something we wanted to be part of,
Yeah.
because I knew so many girls who were going to school and training to be part of that community. And it
Wow.
really bothered me that my own church would not even look at their resume because of their gender.
That's crazy.
And, I do know a lot of churches, they expect to get a 2-for-1, a pastor
Mm.
and a spouse, and they expect the spouse to run all the volunteer programs and do all those things. But it's like when your time is not valued enough to be paid for, but you're doing it for free, there's a problem there.
There is a problem.
There is a big, big problem. And I don't know how to fix that. And I guess there's no way to really fix it. You just have to decide, are you going to be a part of that community or not?
Yeah, because if people stop attending those churches, they wouldn't be there. But obviously, there's still women that feels like,
Hmm.
okay, that's fine. If they want to keep the women on this side and the men on this side, we
Yeah,
respect that and keep it moving. And so
right.
I think we can never get away with that as long as we have people that are okay with it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I think sometimes religious interpretations can be very unclear. So
Mm.
we take those words and we twist things a bit.
Yeah.
So, we say, okay, well, it's important for a woman to run a whole or the home or the household, while others think it's important for, women to be out there and be leaders and to be seen and
Hmm.
heard. So I think it's all how we read it and we interpret it, and what versions of the Bible that we're reading as well, or
Yep.
whatever doctrine you follow. But I think it's interpretation is a huge thing. And we can either keep it the old way based off of those interpretations, or you can be more progressive and move forward.
Very true. And that interpretation is obviously just the filter that you're looking through with all your
Right.
life experience and all your, yeah, and just be your perception, which is your reality. And then it
Hmm.
becomes other people's realities. And we're all out here living and based off somebody's perception. So, yeah, it's definitely those interpretations can be very important and, yeah, very
Right.
strong and oh, I don't even know how to put it. I just know that a lot of people read the word and they try. And what used to really annoy me, let me back this up, is that people would take one scripture and run with it. But if you read that whole section, that whole book, that
Yes.
whole chapter, they're
Yes.
really taking it out of context. And so me reading the Bible from back to front to back, and really I'm like, wait a minute, people used to say this about this, and it's like, no, there's a pre, during, and an after story that all aligns with that, and you're totally taken out of context.
Yeah,
So, and that's,
exactly.
yeah, it's crazy.
Exactly.
Well, that was a great episode. Any final thoughts?
I just say whatever you decide to do as a female or a male, it's up to you and your
Yeah.
partner, and whatever works for your household, do it. Do it, do it, do it. But have conversations, talk about it, and know that you can't do everything and you shouldn't have to do everything.
Amen. Amen. I agree with you, Vanessa. I mean, I'm making it 25 years without God. And obviously, Nate and I going through a good and bad. But a lot of it was talking about what works for us, like, and not caring what the outside thought about it. So if I made a little bit more money for a little bit and then he did, it was okay. Like, or if I'm taking care of this and he's taking care of this, I'm doing this, whatever it may be, it works for us. And so I don't care what none of y'all haters out there think about it. It's about what God and my husband and I wanted. And that's how we got through all this in this time. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Have a good day. A big thank you for listening to this episode. We hope you found today's chat about the intersection of religion and money insightful. We would love to hear your feedback. Hit that subscribe button or follow the podcast, and please feel free to leave us a review.
Yes, and for the latest Yahweh's Money content, visit us at crusaders4change.org or find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Until next time, stay financially fit and spiritually inspired.
And remember, it's always better Yahweh's way.